One thing we know for sure that we all share in common is we're going to be challenged. I believe that with the right steps, we're actually never better than when we're challenged. You just need to have those steps in place. Don't wish it was easier. Make yourself stronger.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Girlfriend Doctor Show. Bringing on one of my dear girlfriends today, JJ Virgin. If you heard the last episode, that is the story of resilience. JJ shared her powerful story about her traumatic experience when her son Grant was hit by a runaway car and on life support and really projected to not survive the situation. She held in, and with much prayer, community support, foresight, and what we talked about last, visioning, and just taking one next right step at a time, she has been able to see her family amazingly restored, her son at 110%, and so much stronger. She's here with us today to share 3 concrete steps to increasing our resilience, to be able to face these obstacles and make amazing, unbelievable transformation despite what we're facing at the moment. Welcome back, JJ.
Good to be back.
Well, let's start with like some really key concrete exercises or concrete steps that we can take. If we can conceptualize, okay, and I'm in the midst of trauma, or someone I know dearly is in the midst of a very traumatic experience. They've lost someone they love, or facing a diagnosis, or losing like my cousin just now lost her home. The ceiling fell in from the ice storm here in Dallas, Texas. And so like we're facing these things. How do we make through it? How do we build ourselves up?
Here's the thing that we know for sure. We are going to go through things. Like no one's going to escape any of this stuff, whether it's caretaking for your kids, for your parents, facing challenges with your health, with finances, with career. I mean, it's kind of a one thing we know for sure that we all share in common is we're going to be challenged. And I believe that with the right steps, we're actually never better than when we're challenged. You just need to have those steps in place before you get here. And that's what's important. I was really lucky, Anna. At the age of 30, I had a mentor who was going to help me be successful in business. And unbeknownst to me, that was the secondary effect. The first thing she taught me and trained me on for 6 months straight was mindset, because her belief was you couldn't be successful in business or life unless your mindset was correct. So when Grant got hit, these things were so ingrained in me that it was immediately how I responded. Like to respond when Grant got hit and say, he's going to be 110%. Would not probably be a normal response had I not gone through this training. So this gal's name was Kay Smith. And the first thing that she taught me was about limiting beliefs, that the only limitations are the limitations in your mind, hence the 110%. So that was super helpful because she's so ingrained in me that your perceptions become reality. You get what you think, and that everything is created twice. So, if you want to really change your experiences, change your beliefs. So you could see why I managed everything so carefully in the way that I, thought.
You'd been through an exercise program to do it, right? You'd
right.
been training yourself.
Oh my gosh. The first thing she had me do was put rubber bands around my wrist. And anytime I had a limiting belief, I was to snap them. Ooh. And so, when you really look at it, saying my son who is lying in a coma with 13 fractures, literally bone sticking through his skin, and they're telling me he's not going to wake up and he'll die in the next 24 hours, and I'm saying he's going to be 110%, sounds like a crazy person. And they looked at me like I was a crazy person. But had I not been coached by her to say, okay, well, he's still alive. If he was dead, I couldn't say, oh, the only limitation, but he's still alive. And so I thought, well, if I fall short, it's better than just letting him go right here. So only limitations are the limitations in your mind. And one of the things I love that my girlfriend, Emory University, talks about is everything is created twice. So you have to see it here in order for it to happen. So really work on what you're seeing. Super duper important. Okay. And that's completely within our control. The next thing, and I did this every single morning because this is the next thing Kay taught me to do, was to wake up in gratitude. Now, when your son is lying in a hospital, hovering between life and death, and you don't know every day what you're coming to, you could see this could potentially be some challenge, a challenging thing to do. But she trained me every morning to pull out a journal, physically pull out a journal, not a phone, not a laptop, pull out a journal, and with a pen, write down at least 3 things you're grateful for. Because it shifts your physiology. It shifts everything. So every morning I would get up and I would write down, and you'd say, oh my gosh, you're so busy. I'm like, it took a minute to write down 3 things I was grateful. Like, doesn't matter if you're busy. This is key critical. It affects your immune system, your happiness, your mental health, everything. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. Now, if you want to write down more, awesome, but you come up with at least 3. You woke up, you got 1, right? So I was like, I woke up, got 1, roof overhead, got 2, turned on the lights, I've got 3. I mean, you can find them no matter how challenging things are, right?
Yeah.
So always did that. Now in that, that was kind of the first part of that whole thing was gratitude. I've got more that goes with that I call my jam challenge, but I'm just going to talk about the gratitude piece there. So first thing is manage your thoughts. Thoughts create, right? The only limitations are the limitations of your mind. Second thing is gratitude, writing it down, waking up in gratitude, super important. The third one I did not learn from her. I learned from our friend, one of my besties, Dave Asprey. And it was very interesting. So Grant was the victim. I don't even like to use the word victim. I always say there are no victims, only volunteers. Grant was the victor of a hit and run, because as my ex-husband likes to say, car 0, Grant 1. So he was hit by a car that sped off. And so many people, Anna, said, are you going to go after the woman? Like, where's the woman? We need to do something about that woman. First of all, no one ever found the woman. Some of my friends from the desert said, hey, we want to start a reward fund to find this woman. And I'm like, why don't you start a reward fund to take care of my son? Like what difference will that make in anything? And we don't actually know what happened. What if my son walked out in front of that car? Like, we don't know what was going on. That her hitting him isn't, and us holding her accountable isn't relevant. When I realized, I always thought that I didn't have an issue with her, that I forgave her. But what Dave taught me is that forgiveness is a very active process. And if you have energy around something, then you probably need to go through this process. And it's so key critical to do this. I talk about this in Warrior Mom, about the idea that forgiveness sets you free. When people talk about forgiving someone, they think that it helps the other person. It has nothing to do with the other person. It is only to do with you. The person who is held in jail from this, by this, is you, not that other person. You don't have to tell the other person you forgave them. You just go through the process to forgive them, and it will release you.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's, and forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. Forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. That's important. So forgiveness as an active process. Will you walk us through that?
Yeah. So it's actually, I did it at this thing that Dave has called 40 Years of Zen, where you put electrodes on your head, and then there's a computer that's watching your brain waves. So you can't cheat. It knows if you are.
I love it.
I didn't know what I was getting myself into when He's like, you need to come do 40 Years of Zen. And he said, it's like 40 years of meditation in a week. Now I was like, right on. That sounds great. I didn't really know what it was. And what it is you get into this computer with this thing on your head, and it's measuring your brain waves to teach you how to raise your alpha creative brain waves through forgiveness. That's how powerful forgiveness is.
Wow.
It can shift, it can change your brain. And so they have a whole process where you first pick your judge and jury. So, and then you pick the place that you want your judge and jury in, the court, your courthouse, whatever. Maybe it's like Maui, maybe it's a real courthouse, whatever makes you happy. So you've got your judge and jury, you've got the location. And then you bring out the person who you're charging with the crime, and you bring them out and you charge them with the crime, and you go for it. You tell them everything they did, how it made you feel. And you just keep doing this until the computer looking at your brainwaves kind of sees that you've just kind of run out of steam. It's like, at first it's like, it does it in music. So it's like, rah, and then it'll just kind of go, ah. And at that point, the person who you charge with the crime is going to turn around and share their story.
Mm.
What happens there is you make that shift to them, which means that you all of a sudden are in total empathy, sharing that story. And then, so they're explaining what happened and why they did this and all of that. And then you forgive them. And the tones can tell if you're forgiving too. And then you kind of talk to the judge and see if it was complete. But basically you go through this process. And there's some people who've done some things that I couldn't, took a while to do the process and it didn't work at first.
Okay. Yeah.
So this may take some time, but I can always tell when I need to do it because I have a lot of emotional charge around something. So just check in with yourself. As Mary Morrissey says, notice what you're noticing. And if you notice you got a lot of charge, you have some work to do around that. And this is, again, like, you're not calling them and saying, hey, I forgive you. You're working through this to take the emotion out, to forgive them. Yeah. This is for you. And that's the important thing.
And that brings you into a place where you can experience that peace that surpasses all understanding, right? It's like, oh man, I'm not emotionally charged around this. I can talk about this without, crawling to my knees, and
right.
That's a process, or getting angry or furious or hateful, and that's freedom. That's true freedom.
Such freedom, because I think, and I doubt I'm alone in this. As I started to go through these forgiveness things, you go deeper into it. You charge the person, and then you get to the next person, you're peeling the onion of people, and in the middle of the onion, there are you, and you're like, oh. And I think for most of us, one of the things Kay, the mentor, said to me is whenever you're pointing your finger at somebody, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you. And so often, we're upset with someone else, but the reality is we're upset with us. Mm-hmm. Right. And when you really go through that forgiveness, and then you forgive the most important person in your life, which better be you, then you really have peace.
I love it. I love it. So I love these 3 sets. I have wrote it down. So we're really our thoughts create things, right? Our thoughts create our reality. That's really important. So the only limitations are the limitation of our mind, number 1. Number 2, gratitude, a practice that I do as well every morning before I usually open my eyes, and definitely before I get out of bed. It's a practice that has sustained me and is so critical to a peaceful, healthier, intentional day. And then 3rd, forgiveness, a constant act, a process, introspection into where haven't we really let go or dealt with or forgiven, and handle these emotions. Again, not easy, right? Not easy. It's a process. Mm-hmm. And I think the more we kind of retell the story and look at it from another viewpoint, like we have to do in relationships, right? Look at it from their point of view. Whatever the situation, that we can release that tension, that energy, that angst with that. So this is powerful, JJ. Any, what would you like to leave our audience with? I can talk to you for hours. I'm gonna have girlfriend time with you soon. I can't wait. But what else would you like to leave our audience with today?
So here's the final line to keep with you. And this is one that Kay said that, gosh, I kept repeating to myself as I was going through all of this with Grant. She always said, don't wish it was easier, make yourself stronger.
Ooh, I like that. Don't wish it was easier, make yourself stronger. How has this changed your life, JJ, and other areas now?
First off, when you go through this, as you'll attest to, when you go through what are some of the most challenging things in life, it makes most of life look like it's the easiest thing ever. Like I look at what will upset most people, and it didn't even register on my screen. It was like a little blip, right? So it truly does increase your capacity and increase your resilience, but it also just increases your gratitude and just your gratefulness. Like like every day when I'm I see my husband and I see my kids and I'm with my dog, I'm like, oh my God, you look at life so differently. You hear about life being short, but until you go through something where you lose someone so dear to you or nearly do, you don't really understand that, on that deep level. So it's just really changed how I approach life, what's important.
And these 4 steps are really critical because that is the exercise of resilience, the exercise of mindset, creating that mindset. And in your book, The Warrior Mom, everyone, you guys got to get JJ's book, The Warrior Mom. It is a fabulous book. She talks about her journey and these steps and other concrete steps. I mean, I know JJ will tell you she spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in coaching as well over the years, and is our, just an amazing mentor to so many of us in the health and wellness space, entrepreneurial space, to be able to tell our stories in an authentic way to help others. I mean, I don't think I'd be showing up the way I show up if it wasn't for your mentorship in so many ways, JJ. So I want to thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
You.
Thank you. All right, everyone, jjvirgin.com. Check out her website and her book, Warrior Mom. That is a gifting book as well as a must read. Thank you all for being part of the Girlfriend Doctor community and sharing this Girlfriend Doctor show with your friends and loved ones and on your social media. Be sure to tag me. I love checking in with you and seeing what you guys are doing. So if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And wherever you're listening to this, and Podcast Addict, iTunes, iHeartRadio, let me know. Be sure to give us a review. And I look forward to seeing you on the next show. Thank you, guys. See you soon.